So I am milling cedar. I actually bought this guy and 4 more cedar logs from a tree service friend up here who had a whole pile of them from a removal job. I am making the compost bin out of this. I really wish I could have made the deer fencing out of it, but there's not enough cedar in the Northeast, at least that I've come across, to make that a reasonable thing. I had oak on the property, so I used that. This is a smaller project, and this is going to be exposed all the time to wet, moist, composty nastiness, so I figured cedar would make this thing last a lot longer. So now for the unveiling, because this stuff is gorgeous. Look at that. Let me put this down over here. Look at this. My God. It's that freaking... And it's so aromatic. Oh, good Lord. That's just amazing. Amazing tree. Wow. Well, hopefully this is going to be rot-free for many years. I bought 5 cedar logs that were about 12-inch diameter by about 13 feet long for $100. I will be able to get about 350 to 400 board feet out of it. So I think I did pretty well on that. So far we've milled up everything we need for the compost bin. So this is a variety of 2x6s and all this stuff down here. These are all 1x6s, 1x6s, and then we got some 2x4s back here, and then we also got some 1x sheets that I milled up. These guys, which these are kind of hard to resaw on the mill, so I'm just gonna resaw those down to 1x2s on the table saw. Something to note here is that I didn't mill these like I milled the pine construction grade lumber. Those I actually milled at like 2 inches by 6 inches and 2 inches by 4 inches to get 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s, the actual dimension. I've already explained how that gets milled down to a consistent dimension at a sawmill after it's been kiln dried, and that's why we end up with 1.5 inches by 3.5 for a 2x4 and 1.5 inches by 5.5 for a 2x6, 1.5 inches by 7.25 for a 2x8. With this stuff, I've milled it actually down to the milled dimension, as if it was already kiln dried and then surfaced on 4 sides and brought down to that. So my 2x4s are 1.5 inches by 3.5, and my 2x6s are 1.5 inches by 5.5. That's what I milled them to, rough sawn. The reason I did that is because I'm using a set of plans from the internet to build this, and I just wanted to make it exactly as they had. I didn't want to do any math or any calculations, so I just wanted to mill the stuff to spec. I'm using plans from rodalesorganiclife.com. They're pretty good. The bin looks nice. I don't know if you can see it right there, but that is what we're building. And I'm going to put a link in the notes in the comment below. I'm just now going to break out the table saw and finish making a few of these, ripping them down to the correct dimension, and then I'm going to start cross-cutting them to length as per the plans and constructing the bin. So I just got this Cobalt table saw. Wasn't my brand of choice, but it has like a 3-year parts warranty on it, so you can't go wrong with that, whereas Bosch and DeWalt only had a 1 year. And it's also got this great stand that's probably the easiest to work with. So we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna make my first cut ever with it. Could be on steadier ground, but not so bad. We just had some rain while we were making the compost bin, and look how freaking red this cedar is. Gosh. You know, when you see a cedar like this, it just makes you want to like put some finish on it. But this stuff is just going to turn, you know, like light brown and whatnot, because we're obviously not going to be finishing our cedar bins. But man, makes me want to make some piece of furniture or something out of it. So I milled that stuff rough sawn so that it would fit the dimensions for the plans. made this a lot easier to build. Otherwise, I would have had to recalculate all of the measurements and kind of made my own cut list and my own plans, and that would have been kind of annoying. These are 1x6s, 3/4 of an inch by 5.5, and they're rough sawn. These pieces are removable, and this gives you access when you want to take a pitchfork or a shovel or whatever you're using to turn this stuff or move it from bin to bin. We're slowly filling it up. We got a whole bunch of straw from last year that we used to seal up the bottom of the camper. We're repurposing that to add to our compost. So when we throw organic matter in here, like you can see there's some veggies and stuff and some flower cuttings that we just threw in there yesterday, we also throw some straw right on top of it. And sometimes the animals get in there and they, like the little guys, like the chipmunks or whatever, we see them running in and moving stuff around. So that's why this stuff is visible right now. But if we just throw some of that right on top, and so you can't see it visually as much, like birds and things more stuff doesn't go in there to kind of get it, and it also keeps the smell down of the decomposition, which is really good. So, and it also holds more moisture. The more we put in here to decompose, the more heat we're going to build and the more composting action we're going to see. You know, it's just 2 of us right now living in a small camper, so we're not producing a tremendous amount, and we also don't have like grass clippings, and we don't have a lot coming out of our garden right now to put into this. So mostly it's just food and straw. But we're going to put some leaves in here now. The leaves are just it's the beginning of October right now, so the leaves are just starting to fall. Obviously we need to try to keep our ratio of carbon to nitrogen. Actually, I don't even know what the real ratio is, to be honest with you. I'm not a composting master. I just know that I'm trying to keep my nitrogen as high of a percentage as we can. So that's why I'm not just filling this whole thing up with straw. It's an experiment. Be happy to hear what you guys have to say about it. Anybody who's more experienced with composting. So like I said, all this cedar is really great because it's going to last a long time outdoors. These little guys, you might be wondering what these are. This whole front section, there's nothing holding these sections of the compost are just out in space, really. There's nothing holding them together. All these pieces are removable. So these posts, they go down into the ground just to kind of steady the ends of these wings, keeping everything where it needs to be. Chicken wire for the sides, that allows a lot of circulation of air to get in here to help the decomposition process. And it also holds the compost in the bin, keeps critters out of there for the most part. They can get in through the bottom. We need to kind of work on that. We have a grade coming down here, so we need to add some more dirt and rocks and stuff in the front, and we will do that. That'll help keep some of the critters that are getting in here right now, keep them out of there. You're supposed to fill this guy up, which at this rate, this is probably about like 2 or 3 weeks for us. So this rate, it's going to take several months to get this thing totally filled. But you fill this guy up, you turn it a few times while you're filling it up to keep everything getting oxygen. And then once this is filled, you move it to the next bin right over here. So we have this pitchfork, and we take the pitchfork and we move it over there. And then we can start filling up. This bin becomes empty, and we can start filling this up again. By that time, probably this is going to be all broken down, ready to use, but before this is filled up. So then we can kind of just remove it out of here, and then we can move this guy once it's filled up into this spot. The whole idea behind 3 bins originally was a higher quantity of compost being generated, and it allowed you to like just fill this up, don't even turn it. I think the way they described it was once this gets filled, maybe it only takes you a few weeks to fill this up, then you turn the whole thing into the next bin, then it aerates it and gets the oxygen, and then a few weeks later, once you fill this one up and this one is still filled, you then turn it into this one, and you move this one into this one, and you keep turning it, and that's the cycle. Is that eventually, you know, by the time it ends its cycle in this one, it's ready to get used, and they can keep moving down. So for us, because we're not producing that much, this might have been a little bit overkill for us at the moment. But we're intending to do a lot more stuff and have more landscaping and more people that we're cooking for, and it was in anticipation of that. So I'm just going to slide these guys back in. It's a little weird. I will say that like the design is good, but you know, these things, since there's not an exact science, there's not like a board anywhere that's like on the bottom, for example, like maybe a board across between the two of these would be good, because then it would space it and exactly they'd all be identical. Right now, like this one might have moved out a little bit more than that one, and then the space, see, there's a lot of play. Like I can literally just barely even get in that slot, so I have to pull this one out a little bit, but I'm not complaining. It works totally good enough. That's our composting bin. We bought a cheap pitchfork from the hardware store, but the thing I want to show about for the compost that's nice is that these tongs, or whatever you call these, they're close together, and that's going to allow, like, as the compost breaks down in small, like, food stuff that we put in there, the fact that there's a lot of them and close together is going to allow us to more easily pick stuff up without stuff falling through. Like if you got one that only had like 4 prongs there, smaller pieces of compost might fall through. Okay.